We'll call our April 21st meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Councilman Henry.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Womack.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those that wish to do so stand for the invocation given tonight by Councilman Henry, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
Let's pray together, please. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful and grateful for the great community we have, and we thank you for all those in years past who worked hard to make it that way. And we just thank you for the wisdom to continue to move forward, and your blessings and your favor we ask in that regard. And we ask these things in the name of your Son and our precious Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes or corrections?
There are no changes to the agenda, Mayor.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
Did I not know?
I ask you to vote again. It's a new job for me, and I'd failed to turn the... All right, now we have 5 votes. Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
15 yes, no good.
Item 4A, consider a reappointment of representative of the Putnam County Tax Equalization Board, Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, John Donnelly has served as the city's appointment to the County Board of Equalization, and John has agreed to serve another 2-year term, and I would ask you to consider reappointing him to the Board of Equalization, and John's also here tonight.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote. Thank you for your
5
service,
yes
sir.
votes.
Thanks, John.
Under 5, old business, 5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on April 7, 2016. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Under new business, 7A, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance O-160304, amending ordinance O-151235, revising the description of property to be rezoned on Lone Oak Drive. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, ordinance number 151235, which was adopted on second and final reading on January 21st of this year, rezoned portions of 3 properties on Lone Oak Drive from RS10 to CG. The properties were identified as parcels 12, 12.01, and 13 on tax map 66A, Group A. These properties are depicted on the screen. Dealmakers Partnership owned parcels 12 and 12.1 and had entered into an agreement to purchase parcel 13. Parcel 13 is this tract, actually goes on back through here. You can see it here. One of the requirements for the approval of the rezoning was that those portions of the properties rezoned would be combined into parcel 9, which surrounds these tracts, which are these tracts here. When the plat was turned into the planning department, it was indicated that this portion, or where the house is located, would not be acquired, and it would have placed the house zoned as CG and been accessed from Lone Oak Drive. So this ordinance corrects the description that's in ordinance 151235 to exclude the house. So what this basically does is reduce the area that would be rezoned from RS10 to CG. The planning department would recommend for your approval.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Do we have anyone in the public that wants to speak to this matter? All right, this will close the public hearing portion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
7B, consider resolution R160409 expressing official intent that certain expenditures to be incurred in connection with the Tennessee Central Heritage Rail Trail be reimbursed from proceeds of grants by TDOT. Ms. Imel.
Mayor and council, construction of the Rails with Trails project is underway, and the project is being substantially funded by grants through the Department of Transportation. Those grants are actually reimbursement type grants, whereas we have to spend the money first, then we submit a claim for reimbursement to the grants. Since the beginning of the project, we have accounted for this project in the Quality of Life Fund, and that fund does not have the reserves to cover large construction payments over the next few months that we anticipate having. This resolution will allow us to utilize reserves from the general fund for those expenditures, And when reimbursement is received from the grant, usually about 30 to 60 days after we file a claim, the funds will go back to the general fund, and this will have no impact on the general fund operations, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Emmel. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
This is just about cash flow.
Yes.
The Nashville and Eastern met today, and I invited them to come up here in October after the rail trail's finished to see what it looks like. Several of the mayors are interested in it, Lebanon and Carthage.
Very good. Anything else? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
7C, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the town of Livingston for routine maintenance on traffic control devices. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, we, over the last few years, have often been asked by neighboring cities and counties to assist them in managing and performing routine maintenance on their traffic control devices. Many of the cities and towns and counties do not have certified technicians to work on these, and the town of Livingston has requested that we continue to assist them, and we've put together an interlocal agreement with the help of TML that would allow us to continue to help the town of Livingston. This particular agreement applies to the town of Livingston to perform routine maintenance on their traffic control devices. The city would perform these services based on specific requests by the mayor or of the town of Livingston or his designee. The town of Livingston would reimburse the city of Cookeville for all costs associated with any work that we might incur as we go up there, including the equipment rental, truck hourly rates for the truck usage, wages and benefits for the employee that would be working on that. In the agreement, the city of Cookeville assumes no responsibility for the operation or any malfunction of any devices. We're just performing routine maintenance on these traffic control devices. In the agreement, the town of Livingston would agree to defend the city of Cookeville should, and any of our employees, should any lawsuit, or claim that might arise out of the work performed under the agreement. So they would defend the city of Cookeville in those cases if that ever were to occur. And we would ensure that performing under the assistance, helping these the town of Livingston, that we would not let it impede the work that we do or need to do here in the city of Cookeville. We would make sure that we take care of Cookeville first and would schedule any work that we need to do or would do for helping Livingston, so that it doesn't cause any issues for the work that needs to happen here in Cookeville. And I would ask you to approve this interlocal agreement.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Yes.
Mayor, thank you. Mike, the second page, you referenced this paragraph, second page toward the bottom of the page. Town of Livingston agrees to defend the city of Cookeville if anything should go wrong, and hopefully it will not and hasn't. Does that, I guess that would include attorney's fees, maybe our attorney should respond, attorney's fees, and to the extent that there's a judgment issued in that regard, would Livingston agree to pay that also?
They will defend us with attorney's fees. If there were to be a judgment against the city of Cookeville, the judgment would still apply to the city of Cookeville. And Dan may have.
Let me speak to that just a second, if I could, Mr. Henry. First of all, I want to talk about the town of Livingston. And this comes out of the lawsuit that we had where Livingston was sued because of the alleged malfunction of a traffic light. And since the city of Cookeville performed maintenance, we were brought into that lawsuit. And I just want to say that the town of Livingston owned up to their responsibility 100% and didn't try to shift any blame on the city of Cookeville in any way. They were a 100% ally in that lawsuit and tried to help us get out of that as quickly as we could. But ultimately, we had to go all the way through the trial before we got out of the case. But Livingston was a good partner and a good neighbor, and like I said, didn't cast any blame on us at all and said it was all their responsibility. But we proved that the traffic light was not defective, so both Livingston and Cookeville won that case. But in this regard, Councilman Henry, if that we didn't have a written agreement with Livingston at that time. We just had a handshake agreement between Mr. Shipley and the mayor, Curtis Hayes, over in Livingston. And this makes it a written agreement so that if that lawsuit should arise again, A, we could probably get out a lot quicker, and B, if we didn't, it would make it clear that Livingston would be responsible for all of the costs associated with that lawsuit unless the city of Cookeville was actually found to have done something wrong in our own right. In other words, we would not be vicariously responsible for anything Livingston did, but if we individually did something wrong, we'd still have to own up to that, just like we do here in town. But this protects us, and if we had had this kind of an agreement initially, we'd probably could have gotten out a little quicker than we did, maybe a lot quicker than we did. But this, I know Mr. Davidson has worked with the TML, and since Livingston and Cookeville and most of these other cities around are insured with TML, this is a good working arrangement for all these cities, and it does insulate us as much as we can.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did, yeah. So only to the extent that we actually, our folks actually do something wrong or inappropriate, then we would assume that liability.
Only if we actually do something wrong,
Yeah.
which, you know, our guys are pretty good. Yeah, it could happen, you know, I had an accident. It could happen, but our guys are pretty good.
Okay. So we'd talked about this in a work session that we do this for a few other cities. Will we be having this same contract for the cities that we do that for going forward?
We have sent this same document, Mayor, to the other cities that have
Okay.
requested assistance in the past and asked them to present it to their council, and then I
Okay.
would present it to our council.
Very good. Any other discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
7D, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering agreement with Allen Hoschel to provide a system impact study for the Highlands Business Park solar installation. Tony Peak.
Mayor and council, we have negotiated with Allen and Hoschel to provide that system impact study for a not-to-exceed amount of $10,000. And basically, they will be performing that system impact study due to the interconnection agreement that we'll have a little bit later on, where they'll be wanting us to connect that system to our system in order to sell that generated power to TVA. And we just want to make sure that it does not impact our substations, our customers, our electric system, or our employees in any adverse way. So with that, I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
7E, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering agreement with Tom Barnes to provide project management, design overview, and construction administrative services for the Business Park solar installation. Mr. Peak.
This is for the same project, and as you read, Mayor, Mr. Barnes will be providing the project management, design overview, construction administrative services. For that, he'll attend the meetings and represent Cookeville in all those negotiations. And we've negotiated a not-to-exceed contract amount of $20,000. And I will point out on this agreement and the previous agreement, RSI, the developer, will be responsible for all those costs. So I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
7F, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering agreement with Allen Hoschel to perform an advanced metering infrastructure AMI procurement specifications and evaluation. Mr. Peak.
As I pointed out in the work session, Mayor and Council, this is a joint effort between the electric, water, wastewater, and gas departments. We have negotiated not to exceed agreement amount, $38,500 to Allen and Hoschel to perform that metering infrastructure procurement specifications and evaluation. And this will have to do with AMR, automated meter reading, that we've been talking about for quite a few years. And basically, Allen and Hoschel will have meetings with the suppliers. They will develop an RFP and send out, qualify the bidders, and ultimately go through all the stacks of paperwork relative to the proposals and make a recommendation of the best AMI, AMR systems out there for Cookeville. And with that, I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We explored this a little bit in the work session. And I'm not sure if I got cleared up. So it looks like we're heading to a day at some point in time in the future that our customers will be charged depending on the day part they use the service electricity. In other words, possibly more charge for peak hours and less charge for other times. Is that where we're going with this?
It is. I don't know exactly when that will get down to the small commercial residential customers, but we have two customers, our two largest customers, Tennessee Tech and Cummins Filtration, on time of use rates as we speak. It's going to filter on down to, as you pointed out, the day will come, it's happening all over the country, where TVA's rates will be structured such that residential and small commercials will be charged depending on the different prices at different times of the day based on TVA's demand, yes. And the only way you can keep up with that and be able to bill them is to have automated meter reading in place, be getting that data every so many minutes to be able to bill them.
So this action comes in anticipation of that to get prepared?
That's correct, and quite a few other things as well, as far as, outage management, possibly prepay, quite a few programs that you can expand into.
So at some point in the future, this is going to do away with the physical of a person coming from the electric department to read the meter? Would that lead to this?
Yeah, well, there's still going to have to be technicians because there's going to be problems where we have to go out and look, and so there'll be technicians. But yeah, someday the day of the meter reader may not be there anymore.
Mr. Mayor. Yes, just have a comment. Yeah, and Tony, I think of course, we went over this in the work session, but I just want to reiterate, this sort of enables in many ways, when it does actually filter down to the residential customer and actually the commercial customer, it kind of enables those customers. You can actually, if this gives us, the guy on the street, the opportunity to see what our electric use, our usage is at any given point in time, and we can actually kind of control our own destiny as how much electric usage we have and what times we choose to use it. So it kind of empowers the people that are buying, the commercial and residential folks that are buying this. So
Exactly.
it's kind of it's a step towards that. So I think it's good, and I'm really looking forward to spending this money to find out how we can best get that done.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes,
Thank you.
motion carries.
7G, consider approving agreement authorizing the city manager to acquire and exchange city right-of-way relating to the improvements to Ridgedale Drive. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, the agreement would allow the city manager to complete a transfer of properties between the city of Cookeville and Mr. Parker Bowles. The purpose of the exchange is to obtain right-of-way necessary for the proposed realignment of Ridgedale Drive. The map on the screen indicates this proposed realignment. Under the agreement, the city of Cookeville will be obtaining approximately 17,488 square feet or 0.402 acres of property for right-of-way, shown on this slide. And we will be conveying to Mr. Bowles approximately 16,986 square feet of property consisting of abandoned right-of-way of Ridgedale Drive. The agreement provides that the existing portion of Ridgedale Drive right-of-way will not be transferred to Mr. Bowles until the conclusion of the construction project. The city will also be obtaining and or retaining 21,796 square feet or 0.501 acres of property for slope easements and 7,883 square feet or 0.18 acres of property for temporary construction easements, which would be returned to him upon completion of the project. The planning department respectfully requests your approval of the agreement and for the exchange of the property.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Anyone like to speak to the motion?
I think this is going to be great because people have never traveled this area. You've had, what, 2 right-angle turns in a relatively short period? It's been some much improvement, and to have the right-of-way given, lowers the cost considerably for the city.
Yes. Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, that concludes the agenda portion of the meeting. We'll have a time if anyone would like to speak to the council on non-agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to do so? Yes, sir. If you'll come to the lectern, identify yourself. State your name and address. Statement of no more than 3 minutes may be made on items of general relevance. Once the timer sounds, you'll need to wrap up your comments within 10 seconds, and comments should be directed to the entire council and not individual members. Yes, sir.
I have a question regarding the rails and trails. We only see one contractor out there working, and I'm kind of curious as to whether we are actually bidding that out, or we're just having one bid or one person operating on the rails for trails. I feel it should be a competitive bid. If it's not, I just want to hear what you have to say about that.
Mr. Klein, we city took bids on that last fall. Okay. Maybe last spring.
Last spring.
Yeah, last spring now. So the city did receive bids on that. I can't recall how many bidders we got. There was three or four, and the project was awarded to the low bidder. So yes, we did.
Any other
I remember they had 400 days to complete it.
415, I think.
415, and that should be around October.
The end of August.
Oh, end of August,
End of
okay.
August, yes.
Will anyone else like to speak to the council? Council, anyone have any comments?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk, do we have those slides that I gave Tracy? Nope. We had our first annual Volks March out at Cane Creek Park Sunday, and it was for Healthier Tennessee and Healthier Cookeville. And the person who had the fastest time around the park and got the first 2 medals was the mayor's family. At 30, they were going at 31, 32.
Let the record show we did go the wrong direction or the opposite direction of everyone else for some strange reason. We were supposed to lead it and no one followed us, so I'm not really sure what happened. But,
We had a good time. We had 40 people out there. Walgreens donated water, and it was a good time. And the people there were asking when we're going to have the next one, and we'll have to do it, but we'll try to have it when it's cooler part of the day, and in the late afternoon coming up. And we want to inaugurate the rail trail whenever it's finished with the with
Absolutely.
the mayor,
That'd be
and
great.
everything going up and down. So we had a good time.
Thanks for your leadership on the whole Healthier Tennessee thing. It's we've gotten the $5,000 grant and some other things going along with that, so we're proud of that. Anybody? Yes.
I just echo what you said, Mayor. I was going to say the same thing to Councilman Womack. Provide the leadership for the grant and instrumental in this walk. And it was a great day for us. It was a great day for the community. Thank you, Chuck, for all you've done to make it happen.
Anybody else? All right, we will be adjourned.